Hi everyone, this is For the Love of Comics, and in this episode we'll be taking a look at Bone by Jeff Smith. We'll be asking, what is Bone? What's it about? What's the story like? Who are the main characters? And what makes it so special? As you may have figured out, this is a general introduction and overview of the series. As usual, in a couple of days, I'll be posting some more detailed and geeky videos. But for right now, let's get to know Bone by Jeff Smith. Bone is a beloved and multi-award-winning comic series written, drawn, lettered, created, and for the most self-published by Jeff Smith. Issue number 1 came out in 1991, and issue number 55 that concluded the series came out in 2004. All 55 issues have been collected in 9 volumes in the original black and white, as well as in a recolored series. Bone has also been published in a 1,300-page omnibus called the one-volume edition, which collects all 55 issues or 9 volumes into one single giant volume. The story of Bone centers around 3 cousins, Bone Bone, Phony Bone, and Smiley Bone, who have been run out of their hometown of Boneville, which is often mentioned but never seen in the series. In their wanderings, the 3 cousins come across an entire land of magic and mystery, although their hometown, from all accounts, seems to be a technologically contemporary one like us, with money and machinery. Where they find themselves is pre-industrial and very much steeped in lore and myth. Bone starts off by being a sort of comedy fantasy where you have these 3 strangers in this strange environment and very character-driven moments. Phone Bone, for example, our hero, is a decent little fellow and he's got this crush on this girl that he has just met, and a lot of his early stuff is about trying to get her to pay attention to him, and even though she's unaware of this. Phony Bone is this scheming, greedy little capitalist who is the main reason why the 3 cousins were thrown out, and that story gets filled in as well of what he actually did. His stories have to do with him trying to manipulate these poor rural yokels and make a profit for himself. Smiley Bone, he's just a happy-go-lucky guy whose incessant cheer and brightness makes for some of the funniest and some of the most tender moments in this series. So the 3 Bone cousins meet people whose backgrounds and whose stories start slowly accumulating into being this larger arc. But what starts as an outright comedy or quickly develops into something a little more serious, a little more complex, and then gathers steam to become a truly epic, not just in the parlance of our times, but in the classical sense, story that has world-changing consequences. Shadows gather and evil forces muster and war is brewing at the periphery of the initial idyllic rural action. All of this blends in perfectly with each other because at the center of it lies character and character work. A large part of this is Jeff Smith's fantastic writing and brilliant art. He has chosen to make the Bone cousins cartoonish and completely alien looking to the humans that occupy the rest of the story. But there are also anthropomorphic animals, there are legendary beasts and creatures, there are forces of evil that barely have shape. Even in pages where all that's happening is dialogue and conversation, you can see expressions and gestures changing on a panel by panel level until it feels almost as if a movie or an animation happening in front of you, although the animation's actually happening inside the reader's head, which is really where the power of comics lie. Much like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings or like any good fantasy, there are dozens and dozens of characters across this series, but every single one of them is fully realized. And the heroes, as they are flawed as well. They are full of doubt, they lose their temper, they make mistakes. This means that although it's operating in this classical epic fantasy trope, it has something really unique where things aren't happening because the story needs them to, or because it was prophesied, or because that's what's got to happen. It's always happening because of the characters making the decisions that they are. Therefore, this This epic grand story feels somehow so intimate and so real. That is why these 9 volumes, alongside a prequel and a couple of spin-offs, as well as a coda that was recently published, continues to capture the imaginations of young and old alike across the world. So there you have it, a very quick look at Bone by Jeff Smith.